Hey y'all, what's up? It's Anthony, and this is Everything Connects, a show where I talk to you guys about pressing personal, family, and societal issues. Today, I'm very excited to branch out and do something a little different. Today, I want to bring you a conversation that's going to add value to your life. I understand right now, especially on social media, everything is competing for your attention. But the reality is, a lot of it isn't the best for us. A lot of it doesn't empower us. It doesn't strengthen us. It doesn't make us better. It doesn't help us. It doesn't encourage us. It doesn't give us any insight. So today, in my very first long format conversation, I have a special guest. As this is my very first attempt to do this, I promise as I move forward, the audio will be better, the lighting will be better, the production quality will be better. But what will not be better is the quality of guest, because this guest is absolutely incredible. Funny, she's witty, she's charming, she's accomplished. She's someone who's had to overcome incredible hardships. She's currently celebrating the grand opening of Elite Foot and Ankle Associates with her partner, Dr. Anna Uricalo. Ladies and gentlemen, my very first guest, Dr. Nolaska Souliotis. This is Everything Connects. Enjoy. First of all, it's great to see you.
Thank you.
See, don't get stiff now, because the conversation that you guys were having, that's the show. That's the podcast.
Yeah,
it was beautiful.
Yeah.
I love to see two highly accomplished, dedicated, professional, family women talking about the behind the scenes stuff of it. And that's all I want this to be.
Yeah.
I feel like you have so much to offer people who are stopping by. Let's talk about you and what you do. You're a doctor. Mm-hmm. You're a surgeon.
Yeah.
You're a dedicated wife.
Yeah.
You are a dedicated mother of 3.
Yes.
Talk about your family for a second. What are the kiddo situations?
Yes. So I've been married for, now it's going to be 13 years.
Wow.
But
Respect.
Thanks. Yeah.
Seriously.
That's a lot of work.
That's a lot of work.
But we've been together for about 25 years. I mean, we've known each other. He jokes around a lot. For more than half of our, lifetime, we've known each other. So yeah, we've been together for a long time. And now we have a 6-year-old, 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old. And
6, 4, and 2.
yeah, so they keep me really busy. It's not boring ever.
I know it can drive you crazy sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, but even when you get away from them for a little bit and you hear those little footsteps, they're looking for you, and they can't find me, but I can hear the footsteps going around the house, and I'm like, and then I see this little person, Mama. It's pretty cool feeling. Yeah.
Did you always know you were going to be a doctor, or?
I come from 2 parents with GEDs.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So they got married really young, too young. And so obviously it didn't work out for them. They eventually got divorced. And so I grew up mainly with my mom. My dad wasn't really in the picture. And so she was always out and working. As a kid, you don't really know what that means, but growing up, I always knew I wanted to do something more meaningful in my life. And so although my mom made some mistakes, I think every parent makes mistakes, and you try to,
100%.
You can't be perfect at anything. No, it does not. And so, she did the best she could with her situation. So I knew that I didn't want to live that life of working one job in the morning and working another job and till like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. to try to make ends meet. It's just not what I wanted to do. I knew that. I started with that concept. And then as I went to, middle school, I started thinking I loved science. Science was my thing. And I was a little bit of a nerd. I loved going to school. I loved going to school. I loved homework. If I didn't get homework that day, I would be like, what am I going to do with my afternoon?
Please don't tell me you were the kid who raised her hand when the teacher forgot to collect the homework. Mrs. Johnson, you forgot to collect our homework from yesterday.
No, so I'm not dumb either. Because I would get killed. But no, I wasn't the teacher's pet either. So I still was in that path where, I like science. And then I thought, just I want to be a doctor. And I think that happened around high school time is when I figured, okay, I need to get my act together now, because as far as act together, I mean I need to graduate and then my plan is to go to college, and then my plan is to go to medical school. But I also just did it step by step. I was never like, oh, I'm going to be a surgeon one day. I was always like, okay, first step, I got to graduate from high school.
Wow.
And that was a struggle because I don't know if you know this, but I did high school in Mexico.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Is that where you're from? I was going to ask, where were you born?
So my family's from Nicaragua, which is Central America. And I lived in Florida for a while, and my mom went through her second divorce and said, we're moving to Mexico. In middle school. Can you imagine that?
Moving to Mexico.
Moving to Mexico. So not only are you, I think it's funny when people say, oh, I'm not changing my kids, high school, because that's just going to mess them up.
Moving from the east side of town to the west side.
I moved countries, so I was very upset. And so, but,
what are you, about sixth grade at this time?
I was in sixth grade.
Wow.
Yeah. So going
Did you speak Spanish?
I knew my grandmother lived with us, she's only Spanish speaking. So I knew Spanish. I just didn't know school Spanish, like I knew how to have some conversation, but not like seventh grade Mexican school,
Right.
So,
Plus, I was going to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, Spanish has a bunch of different dialects, right?
Yes.
So if you're learning Spanish from like a Nicaraguan family, it's very different.
Yes.
Mexico, right?
Yes, you're completely right. So when I went to school, my mom didn't want me to lose my English and all that. So I did go to a private school where they had English as their base. And then, obviously there were some Spanish classes, but you had to take these tests, and, I excelled in English, but Spanish, it was a disaster. So they pulled me back.
No bueno?
No, no bueno. They pulled me back a year. I had to repeat.
You failed a grade.
I failed a grade.
Wow.
I didn't pass. And I was so disappointed, so disappointed. I blamed my mom for all of it, right? Because I'm thinking, why I didn't have to go through this. I was fine in Florida. And, not only am I shy to begin with, I was quiet. And then my Spanish was not good compared to the kids there. So they would call me the Cuban because I'm coming from Florida and they think I'm Cuban. So they call me
what was that?
They would call me La Cubana. And I'm like, I'm not Cuban. And so that was my nickname, Cubana, which then it became like a funny thing. I was okay with it. But at first I'm like, are they making fun of me? Are they,
Yes.
So I had to deal with all of that. And so when I went through high school there, then we stayed there for several years. I knew that place was not for me. I already at that point knew what I wanted to do.
So you were going into high school in Mexico?
Yeah, right,
Wow.
right. So I did high school in Mexico, and it's crazy when people find that out. They're like, "What?"
Yeah.
And so,
not to stop you, it
yeah.
just sounds such a. How in the world does a young person who just recently failed a grade,
Yeah.
who's moved to an entirely different country,
Yeah.
who's struggling to fit in socially, decide, I'm going to be a doctor? It sounds like
Yeah.
almost an impossible thing for you to come up with and say, I'm going to do this.
So I never saw it as like the whole picture. I saw next step.
Mm-hmm.
What's my next step here? My next step is I need to figure out what college I can get into.
Yeah.
Right. And then after that, okay, I got into college. What then? So I saw it and I always tell people, like I'm telling a patient that, is trying to lose weight and because they have pain in their ankles, and I'm like, or they're diabetic, I say, don't look at the whole picture of I need to lose 100 pounds.
Too much, overwhelming.
It's too much for you. It's too much for anybody. And so you have to look, okay, what do I have to do this week? What is that change that I have to do this week?
Right.
Okay, I'm going to have less Diet Coke. I'm going to have less Coke.
Right.
Start there. Little things, little changes. Because if you do really big changes, it becomes too overwhelming for anybody. And then guess what? You give up. You just say, okay, I can't do that. And then just like, what's easier? I'm going to go in the easier path. Any big accomplishment that I've had in my life, it was hard work. Nothing easy. And we say that all the time, but it is so true, because if it's too easy, then that doesn't mean that much to me,
Did your grades start to pick up as you went along?
Oh yeah, I was
Figured it out.
I figured it out. I told my mom, okay, I want to go back to the US for college, and she's like, absolutely not. And so I worked on that for a while. And I had an aunt that lives in Chicago. And so I said, what about if I go to Chicago? And my aunt's there. She can keep an eye on me. And so she kind of maybe agreed with that, but still was hesitant. So what I did is I started to go online. My aunt kind of helped me with it. And I filled out all the applications. She was close to Northern Illinois University.
Okay.
I did all the stuff. I wrote my essay. I wrote, everything, and I did that all like my mom didn't know that any of this was happened.
Damn. The drive.
Because I wanted to get out bad. The address I used was my aunt's address, and so they sent the acceptance letter to her, and so she called me, and I was like, "Oh my God!" My mom still didn't know anything, and
so this was your senior year of high school?
This was my junior year of high school.
So you're writing letters on your own. You have formulated this whole plan. Your mom's very loosely behind it.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, kind of.
She thought I wasn't going to do it. She thought and we do that as a parents. Like, sure. Just like, yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, you knocked that out. You're going to forget about it.
Exactly.
But I was not forgetting about it.
So you wrote your own, you did all the application stuff for Northern Illinois University. Mm-hmm. Submitted it on your own with your aunt's address. Mm-hmm. You'd never been there one day in your life, right? No.
Yeah, I was there when I was younger to her house, for a summer or something.
Like, this is nice. I'm going to come back here.
I'll be here one more time. Yeah. I had no clue that was ever happening. But yeah, she was a great person to have on my side. She's one of my role models because I saw her in the Hispanic world, women are usually just stay at home. When I was surrounded by that in Mexico, my friends, when I would talk to them, oh, so what are you doing after high school? They were like, oh, well, I think so-and-so is going to propose. And that's it. My brain was like, what? Like, I didn't get that, at all. I'm like, so you're just going to go get, or she's like, oh, maybe I'll go to college, like an afterthought, not something like I'm going to college, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be an engineer. It was more like, oh yeah, I'll go to college, and but the focus was meeting a guy, and I was like, no, that's why this is not for me. I'm not meant to be in this place. And I'm not just saying the whole country, but in that area, that's what I was feeling. I wanted to do more. I knew that I just didn't want to get married. That wasn't my goal in life. That'll come, but definitely not at that time in my life. I finally told my mom what was happening, and she kind of, at that point, I told her I got accepted, and her mind was like, what? What school?
Yeah. You're like, remember you said go for it?
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
Like, no, I don't remember.
I know. I'm like, Northern Illinois University, it's by Tia, and it's going to be, she's going to take care of me, and
What's your aunt's name?
Ileana. She's retired now, but she was she was a dean at one of the universities, not that one, but another university around there. And she had her doctorate in economics. I mean, she's one of those women you're like, oh wow, you're pretty cool. And she has her family. So I saw her as that's what I want. That's what I'm looking for. It's some other stuff. I knew that I could do more than just get married. Yeah.
How proud must she be right now?
She is. She's actually coming to our grand opening.
Seriously?
Yes. Oh, yes. Her and my grandmother, which are, my mom obviously is here. So she's, but my grandmother lives in Nicaragua and my aunt in Chicago. So they're going to come for it. So, wow. Yeah.
Real quick, my wife has a thing when I come home from work, and I'm like, yeah, they did a surgery. They put a pin in someone's elbow or whatever, and I touch her. She wigs completely out. And I was like, yeah, Dr. Souliotis says she's going to bring this demonstration so she can drill your foot. And she was like, I will kick her. I will ruin your show.
The show is over.
She will leave in a fit. You'll be fired from your job.
I just translate the pain and I'm like, no, I can feel it.
Every day she's like, I don't know how you do that stuff. Because we'll do big spine surgery, then go to lunch, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I told her, the only thing that's ever freaked me out is feet.
Really?
Yeah, you guys grab those toes and bend them down and drill all the way in there and shave it. And I'm like, whoa.
That is funny.
That's
crazy. A lot of people have that feet issue. They just, I've had many people say, you don't understand. The fact that you're actually looking at my feet is a big deal for me. I don't let anybody see my feet or touch them. I'm like, why? I'm gonna kind of touch them, I have to.
Yeah.
They're like, and you can see like they start sweating. It's actually a common thing. People just don't like their feet.
Especially if they're, I guess it kind of goes either way though, right? Because aren't there whole like fetishized websites about feet and stuff like that?
Yeah, I actually have a really funny story about that, but I don't think that's appropriate.
I bet there could be like an OnlyFans where all you do is like a demonstration of drilling people's feet.
Oh, maybe
right?
I could do that.
Just hands and feet with like a foot model.
That OnlyFans thing is wild.
Isn't it?
It's wild. The amount, like what people make.
It's a little bit disheartening, honestly.
I don't like it because I'm like, all this work that I put in my life, and then you show like.
Here you are, moving countries, getting held back a grade, lying on an application, moving across the country, struggling through med school.
Yeah.
And then someone, shows a picture of their feet. It's a little bit disheartening. Although I will say, I can't imagine that it's very fulfilling to one's soul and spirit. You talked about you knowing at a young age, you wanted to do something impactful. I mean, I imagine that feels kind of hollow, right?
I think, the way I see it too is like when things are so easy like that, I think you miss that meaning of what life is. The struggles make you want to do different.
One of the things that I talk about a lot is mindset and attitude. And what you just said there is so empowering, but I feel like a lot of people don't ever get to that point of super high level accountability where they just say, hey man, it's up to me. So was there something, is that just innate in you, or was there something that happened that kind of made you realize there's no one coming to save me?
Yeah. There wasn't like one specific incident that I could tell you, that made me realize that but it was a combination, like a lot of those instances where I knew that I didn't want to live that life, and I didn't want that at the point where I have a family that I want my kids to go through that. So it was, the way I would see the kids at school, the way that I would see my mom work her butt off all day, every day, and she would miss all my stuff. Like I didn't have I would do something at school and my mom wasn't there because she was working, and so that's why it's so important for me with my kids. I want to be there. Yeah. If that makes any sense.
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting segue. I disrupted your story. So let's get back chronologically. You're a senior, you're a junior, about to be senior in high school. You're doing okay. You're figuring things out. You don't fit in socially. You have this dream. Yeah. It's got to sound like a pipe dream at the time. You send off.
I didn't know where I was going. I was like, wherever it is, it has to be better than here. Yeah. I just thought it was like, I always knew college was, a little bit more accepting of different people, different minds, different, and so I was just headed that way, and nobody was going to stop me. And my mom finally got on board and she talked to my aunt, and everybody was happy with the agreement.
So what was the agreement? You go
that
there?
I was going to go there for 1 year, and if I behaved, so if you have, the good grades and all of that, but you can stay, if not, you come back. Of course I partied, of course, that was fun, but I always knew that I needed to keep my head in the game. Like I knew, okay, I'm going to party, but the next day I'm going to get up and I'm going to do my, work. Cause that was part of the deal. I had to, work.
A job?
Yeah. Because, so my grandmother, paid for my college. This is my dad's mom. And so she paid for college, but her deal with me was, I'm going to pay for your college, but you have to work a part-time job and pay for your insurance for your car and pay for your, you're going out, your social money, basically. So I had a part-time job. And so.
Where'd you work?
At Walmart.
Hey, there ain't nothing wrong with Walmart.
But not only Walmart, I worked at the deli, which was I got scammed because I wanted to work as a cashier. That was
you'd be up front, yeah.
that was the cool job,
course.
cashier.
They stuck you in the back of one of those hairnets. You're back there shaving ham.
So exactly. So okay, one thing I have never lost is my sense of style. Like I like to, my style for me is like I love to dress up and I like to do all that stuff. So they told me, okay, well, you're just gonna be the deli for a couple months, right? And we're gonna pay you. They paid you like $3-4 extra.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, I can do this. You
go home smelling like bologna. But
yeah.
You got some extra money.
Yes, exactly. So I said I can do this. But then when I walked in and they showed me the hairnet, I was like,
almost a deal breaker.
Absolutely not. I can't. No.
Like, I got cute for this.
Yeah, no. I said no. I put my foot down, and so they agreed to do a hat instead. So I put my ponytail, and a hat like that I could do. So I was a hat. I never wore a hairnet. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. There's no way, because there's people coming there because it was a small school. Yeah, it was a really small.
God, the last guy.
No, and the hairnet. No.
You were poor.
Yeah.
You're like, you want one slice or two?
I know. Yeah. And so I know random things about cheese. I know all the cheese and how they taste and all the meats. It was. We had to fry chicken. I had all these burns from the oil.
You had to fry it.
Yeah, because it was very popular. Everybody wanted. I was so annoyed that everybody wanted this chicken. But yeah, people would come and get like an 8-piece, and so I would fry it, and yeah, it was not the fabulous job that I thought I was gonna have, and that was my first job. But I did it, and I stayed there actually, and then for a couple years. I was never a cashier. My goal in life was to be a cashier.
Keep working hard.
And then I know, and it's funny because when I go now because I also worked at Walgreens after that, I go and see these cashiers. I'm like, I just stare at them. I'm like,
how'd you do it?
I remember those days, But yeah, so that was the deal. I had to get a job, and I did well in college. I kind of flourished. I became a little bit more social, and I got a boyfriend and friends, and it was good. It was a good time for me. I finally felt like, okay, I kind of fit in here a little bit more, even though it was college and it's huge and all that. But I found my niche with people, and then I started focusing more on the path of medical school. Like, so I got went to a counselor. What do I need to do? What are the classes and all of that? And so I did, all the requirements, the basic stuff. But then I was pre-med, and so then you need to get all the specific classes: chemistry, physics, biology. You need tons of that.
Organic chemistry.
Organic chemistry.
I keep hearing that.
Is the worst thing in the world. That class was hard. Hard. And no matter how much time you put into it, sometimes I would talk to people in the class, like we would study together like hours and hours, and we get to the test and it's like,
never seen it before.
What the hell is this? Like, it's crazy how you put so much time in something and then you look and you don't recognize what's in front of you. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So there's certain moments in my life where I feel like, self-doubt is there, like right there. There's sometimes I'm like, oh, I can do that. I can do that. But getting to medical school, I was, because I was surrounded by pre-med students, and I would look around and say, I felt like they were so much smarter than I was, or they had done so many other activities that I didn't do, and they were in the debate team, and, all of those things. I said, okay, well, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do what I have to do, and I'm me, and I can't just all of a sudden change that. And if they like me, then, well, they like me. I focused a lot on my essay and my who I was and my where I come from. They first tell you, okay, we want to interview, and that's the next step. Like, that means like they're kind of considering you, and then they interview. And I knew that
it's a real sit down interview.
Yeah, and every school does it a little different. Sometimes a little bit more social, sometimes a little bit more academic. And so I knew that if I got an interview, I had more chance, because I knew that I can. If they talk to me, they can see my drive. In a piece of paper, it's tough to see that drive. And I wanted them to know that no matter if I might not be the brainiac from applying to Yale, but I was ready to give that time. And so interviews went well, I think, and I did get accepted to several. And then, and so not all.
Multiple.
Yeah, multiple. And so I went to school, and that was a whole other life. Like, that was like, you think that you are smart, and then you come into meet these people, and you're like, oh my God, it's wild. First year, usually it's kind of like the wean out process. They make it really hard, and you lose a lot of people the first year, because they kind of want to see how committed you are. I think, I don't know, but we lost a lot of people the first year, including my one of my roommates. And so I remember when I started there. When I went to college, I would study, but it wasn't like crazy studying. I did well. I was straight A's, and I would study a little bit, and that was enough.
Yeah.
I thought I could do that in medical school. And my first class, the first time I ever gotten a C in a test, which was with a curve,
Wow.
I was like, what? And then the next test, same. I was like, oh my God, am I going to be failing?
Yeah.
I was putting the same amount of time that I was putting in college. And I realized that's not enough.
It's not enough.
That's not enough. It's not enough for me, right? And so you have to know who you are, and one thing that's hard to not do is compare yourself to others. And you're constantly doing that in medical school. It's so competitive.
How'd you do?
Yeah.
How'd you do? Damn, you got an A?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Might be time to dust out the old deli hat.
Yeah. Maybe I do need a net.
That's right.
So I was, I said, well, I'm not doing enough. What do I need to do? And so that's when I started waking up at 4 a.m. And I've been doing it ever since that moment. I realized that the day was not long enough for me. I needed to put that extra time. And you go to school from like 8 to 5, and then you go to dinner and you do a little study here and there, and then I would go to bed. I started waking up at 4 a.m. every day. I would go to Starbucks, and I would study for 2 hours before school started.
Wow.
And so I was already prepared for the classes, read ahead of time. So then by the time they're talking to me, it's the second time I'm hearing it.
Yeah.
And then I would be done at 5. I would go back to that Starbucks, study for another 2 hours, have kind of like dinner there, and then go home.
Wow.
And I would work out after. And so that started changing everything.
That's unbelievable.
It's funny because my roommate, so I had 2 roommates. So my other roommate, she came from a family of doctors. Her mom was a doctor. And I felt like, I looked at her, I'm like, oh my God, you're so lucky.
Yeah. Talk about cultural advantages.
Yeah.
But it's weird though, because we'll get back to what you're saying. The whole premise of this is everything connects, and getting to see things from a different perspective. Listening to your story, I realized that if you weren't in the situation where culturally you didn't fit in early, if you weren't exposed to the hardships of your mother having to work so hard, her relationship not lasting, you going to a whole nother country, failing a grade, not fitting in like the rest of your peers, if you didn't have all those challenges, then it may not have fortified your personality and your character to get you to the point where you were in medical school with her. Different paths for different people, right?
Right.
So she may have been the type of person where, if she came from what you experienced, it sounds like she was, I have no idea who this person is, she was very assimilated to the culture that she grew up around. She grew up around doctors. She went to med school.
Yeah.
So if she grew up in Mexico, where everybody was saying, you just kind of get married and that's it.
Yeah.
Maybe she does that.
Yeah.
So
right.
your challenging hard path is actually what kind of gave you the strength and resolve to become what you have.
Yeah.
Which is incredible. I didn't realize that you worked so damn hard. I mean, I know people work hard, but it's one of the reasons that I don't have any animosity toward people who ascend to high positions in life and make a ton of money and have a ton of respect. So many people, especially in the environment that I come from, they almost vilify success, right? They go, yeah, but that person's a doctor. They don't know what it's like because they're a doctor and they make a bunch of money. No, man. Anybody that wakes their ass up at 4 o'clock, and think about the things that you've just said that you did in order to be successful. Anybody that when a person is that dedicated to success, I believe there's nothing that can hold you back. There's not a systemic injustice. There's not a social inequality. There's nothing that can keep you from success when you have that sort of resolve. I want people to take that from this. That's just incredible what you've done.
Thank you.
You should be proud of yourself.
I just looked at one step ahead,
One step at a
one
time.
thing. And again, I go back to that's advice I always give my patients. It's like one thing at a time, and so I got into medical school. Okay, year one, it's, 4 or 5 years. I was already thinking, what do I have to do to get into the residency that I want to go to? There's something called the matching process. And so what that is at the end of you're almost done with your 4-year schooling. There's something called match day. I don't know if you aware of what this is. And
You know damn well I don't know what that is.
Okay.
I'm an X-ray technologist.
Yeah, but you're around doctors all the time, so it's like I don't know if you've heard one.
There was no matching.
So
it was me trying to match a job.
Well, this is what that is.
Okay.
It's matching a job. It's matching your residency. So the residency program gives their top 5 students that they want. The student puts their top 5 programs that they want. And there's something called match day. It's literally one day. And it's in a system. And so ideally you want to match. The program wants to match with the student. And so, there was a program in Chicago that everybody wanted. And when I went to it, I was like, I want this program. I remember as a student, the attending told me, Dr. Grady, told me, hey, you're going to scrub in with Laura. Laura was the resident, the 3rd-year resident. I said, okay, great. It was an ankle fracture. Okay. First time in the OR. It was amazing. And so that feeling, I'm like, oh my God, this is finally happening. All this work, and I'm getting into the OR. I'm not doing anything. I'm just going to stand there. And I saw her, and I always talk to her, about this. And she's probably like, oh my God, she's telling the story again, because I'll never forget it. And usually you have an attending with you. If you're a resident, you have to have an attending there.
Making sure you don't screw something up.
Yeah, right. So he was running late. And so I walk in and she's like full on, she's open already, distracting the fracture, getting the plate. And I'm looking at her like, wow, she's doing this by herself.
Yeah.
I had been to programs where the resident was just retracting, right? And the attending is doing it all. This little person, she was like this tall, this skinny, she's a marathon runner, is like just...
She's in there.
Man, I was so impressed with that. And she was a 3rd-year resident. I'm like, I want that. That's the surgeon that I want to be. I don't want to get out of residency and not know how to fix an ankle fracture on my own. You know what I mean? Because you are, some programs really baby you and barely let you do things, and others like that. I was like, holy moly, she doesn't even need the attending, right?
It's kind of like a paperwork thing.
Yeah.
Name there.
Yeah. So I knew I wanted to do that, and I knew that was the program I wanted. But of course, everybody wanted it. You run a risk because you want to match. If you don't match, you go in this lottery, and the lottery you can send you to like Nebraska. I don't know, somewhere you've never been. And I already had a couple of programs that the director came to me and told me, we're going to rank you high.
Okay.
So
kind of like a little wink and a
yes,
nudge.
and so I had a for sure program that I could match with. But I didn't. I liked the program. The program was fine, but that's not the one I wanted.
Yeah.
And so I remember filling out the thing, and I'm like,
Do I do it?
And I said, why not? Why not? And there's been a lot of times in my life that I say, why not? Why not me?
Yeah.
Why not? Why would they not pick me?
Yeah.
Because there's always so much self-doubt, and always like, I have those moments where like, and that was a moment where like, I know they're not going to do it. So then I put the other program number 1.
You did.
First.
You let fear win. For a second.
First, and then I'm like, no, I'm gonna risk it. I'm gonna put this program that I want. Why not? Maybe I don't know, And so, that day was just crazy. This is one of those days that I'll never forget. We all went out to the bars and drank and like waiting for a call because they call you.
Talking about who they put where.
Right. Yeah. And I hear that program
everywhere.
Constantly, and I'm like, oh my God, I should have put the other program. I'm like, that is just, So finally, I wasn't getting a call at all so they start giving calls like at that night and then into the next morning. So I remember looking at my phone. I'm like, oh my God, no calls. Like, oh my God, oh my God. And so at 9 a.m. the next day, one of the attendings, and I know her, I had her saved in my phone.
Yeah.
My phone rang, and I was like,
From that top program.
from the one I wanted.
Wow.
Tara Sakovich. She called me.
Shout out Tara.
Yeah.
That 9 a.m. call changed everything, Tara.
She's awesome too. Because the actual program, the nationwide program, doesn't let you know who you match till later, but phone calls happen. It's almost like the NFL. I feel right? Like you're trying to
behind the scenes.
Yeah, and so they made you get a call. You don't have to wait till the results. And she's like, hey, so just want to let you know that we ranked you high in our program, and we just want to know if you ranked us high. And I was like, yeah, number one. And she's like, great, we're matching.
That's unbelievable.
I was like, oh my God, that feeling. I think that was the first time that I realized, wow, I can do big things.
Yeah. You're going to be that third year resident.
And I was. And I had a lot of students come up to me, same thing, said, oh my God, I want to do what you do, and it's to hear that, it's just it's a great compliments when people come to you and admire what you're doing, because, again, you just do you just do it, but it was a great experience. Great. Dr. Grady was the attending, the head of the program, and we still, he still texts, happy birthday, we have a great, and now that I'm opening up my own practice, we kind of been reconnecting because he has his own practice, and he's kind of, I need all the advice, that you can give me, because you've been doing this, he's been doing it for a long time.
So you've alluded to this a couple times. Mm-hmm. You've had a ton of success along your career so far, but now you have something even bigger and newer coming. So what's this new practice? Tell me about it.
Elite Foot and Ankle Associates.
Wow.
Yeah. I've always been so grateful that I love what I do. Not a lot of people can say that, right? Not a lot of people say, I love my job.
That's true.
I love what I do. I really do. I really enjoy it. I had another why not moment. I said, I was talking to my partner, Ana Iracalo. I looked at her, I'm like, we should open our own gig. And we both laughed. And then I kind of looked at her, I'm like, why not? And she's like, really? I don't know who said it first. It's kind of like blurry, but I remember saying, why not? And that seed was planted, and then she left, and then we started talking about it again. And we're like, let's do this. And to get to this point has been hard. Like, I've been through a lot of hard stuff. This is, loans, banks, GCs, architects, like all this stuff that you're just like, what? I don't know any of this. So I'm learning so much from that. The building part of it, we've gotten so many delays.
The literal construction of the building. It
is so frustrating because you have to depend on so many different people for it to happen. And then some people don't have the work ethic that I do, right? And so I hold people to those standards, and I'm like, what do you mean that the inspector just a no-show?
Yeah.
Who no-shows to your job?
Yeah.
I'm like, imagine if I no-showed my job? No, I promised you that I was going to be at 10 a.m. there for you. Yeah. I'm here at 10 a.m. for our visit because that is my duty to you. My mind was blown by the work ethic of some people, but I can't control it. I can't do anything about it, and it's just that drives me crazy.
Hey, why feet?
I thought going into medical school, I wanted to be a gynecologist, and then I quickly realized I did a rotation at Cook County Hospital in Chicago.
And then you're like, you thought feet were nasty.
Oh no. You said it. I didn't. Yeah, I agree with that. And I knew I wanted to do surgery. I liked bones all the time, and I wanted to do small joints. I didn't see myself doing like knees and hips and things. My grandmother was a diabetic. This is my mom's mom. She had a lot of issues with her feet. And I was always, when she lived with us, I was always her little translator. She didn't know any English. Her podiatrist was amazing to her. And So that I always saw that as a thing I would want to do in the future. That's how I kind of went into that, and I don't regret it at all. I love it because I see a bunch of different things, wounds and arthritic disease and plantar fasciitis and injuries and fractures, and wow. So it makes it like fun. It's not one thing, Yeah.
So one of the things I talk about with this theory, this concept that I live by of everything connects, it's taking connections that sometimes people miss in their everyday life that give meaning to things that oftentimes we just overlook. Mm-hmm. So me listening to your story, I find it incredibly inspiring, and I find a deep connection in that you moved to Mexico, you're living in an environment where you feel like culturally and socially you don't necessarily fit in. Mm-hmm. And both of your grandparents, in their own way, help you escape that environment. One financially, who says, I'm going to help fund you to go to this private school. I'm going to help fund you to go to school in America. Mm-hmm. And another one, in a totally different way, the other grandmother who exposes you to her podiatrist, who I assume up to that point you had no idea what podiatry even was. Mm-hmm. But seeing their interaction and seeing was the doctor a man or a woman?
Man.
Seeing his demeanor and how he affected your grandmother had such a lasting and deep impact on you that without even realizing it, later on in life, all these years later, you go, hey, that actually sounds like something I'd want to do. Mm-hmm. And those two forces come together, and you graduate medical school and are a successful podiatrist, now starting your own practice. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's crazy. Thank you.
I love that. That's incredible.
Wow, yeah, that's amazing. The way you put it, I was like, yeah, that's how it. Yeah, I never saw it that way. Yeah. I never saw what you just described as my grandmother's kind of just having that influence. I mean, I knew you have to have influence from your family. It's just, listen, it's
La Cubana.
Yeah, La Cubana.
You gotta go.
So annoyed.
You gotta go.
It's crazy. It's something that it's happening, and now this new adventure, and having kids is along with all of this. Then there's that part of it, that's hard, to balance and have I'm okay with doing this, but then I have kids. Like, what is that balance? And that's
how do you have a 6, a 4, and a 2 year? You're pregnant and working.
Yeah. So my one quick funny story that just to give you an idea of my pregnancies and work. I get to work, I see my first 2 patients, and I remember my third patient needed x-rays. And so I tell Michelle, I'm like, hey, order x-rays, I'm gonna go see my OB, I'll be right back. And so I go downstairs, I get checked, and she goes, you're having this baby today, within hours. And I'm like, what? No. Because I'm having some pain here and there, but I'm talking, I'm like seeing patients. I'm
Plus, like you said, it's your third baby, so you know yourself.
Yeah, so I said, I have a whole clinic. I'm like, she's like, no, Nolaska, you have to I have to actually book an OR for you. It's happening today. You can't wait. I'm like, okay, can I see my morning patients?
Can I come back after lunch?
And she's like, are you kidding me? I said, okay, I have one patient upstairs waiting for me. Do I have time to go and see that patient and then come? She's like, one patient, go finish, and then you come and check yourself into the admission area. And I'm like, fine.
Did you go tell the patient, hey, I'm about to have a baby, come back later?
So no,
I go and do your thing? I
went to see the patient, and I know him too, and he'll never forget it too. He's like, so he asked me, when are you due again?
15 minutes ago.
I said, okay, well, this is kind of funny, but when I'm done with you, I'm heading downstairs so they can open me up.
Yeah. Remind me again where your ankle hurts. I'm about to have a baby.
I know. So he's like, what? And he's so kind. He's like, go. And I'm like, okay, but just remember, you got to do this, that.
Yeah.
The whole thing was just, so that was the way I carried my pregnancies. I just worked the whole time till the moment, that I was ready to have them. So, wow. Yeah.
You remind me a lot of my wife in the sense that you're incredibly driven, but also I feel like the challenges that you guys face, you're made for it. Without those challenges, I feel like you wouldn't be who you are. You need those challenges. Yeah. You thrive in those conditions.
Yes, you're right.
And she's done the same thing. Started her own business and started from nothing and does every aspect of it herself. That's one of the reasons I wanted to have you here. Yeah. I just have so much respect for y'all and people who are able to look in the mirror and say, I can do this.
That's the most challenging thing that I have had, as far as accepting the fact that I can't do it all, right? Because in my head, I'm thinking I can do it all, but then I have kids, and then I'm like, I can't do it all.
Yeah.
You know, you realize that. And I remember when I was a new mom, my first kid, I had a lot of struggle with guilt. Like, mom guilt is real. It is so real. I would try to ask anybody, you know, is going through something like me, like my aunt that, you know, that did that. And like, how did you do it? You know, you would get the same answer, like, well, you know, I'll help. And I do have a lot of help. My husband is a great father, hands-on. I have my mom that helps me. We have a nanny, like, all these things all this group of people that help and are able, that's how my kids make it to school. And that's how, you know, you need all that help. And you have to be organized, and you have to know how to multitask. And I'm like, okay, I do all of that.
Yeah.
But it didn't make me feel any better. Like, that guilt was not going away. I'm like,
just the guilt that you weren't giving your family your full attention?
Yes, exactly. That I was missing out on things. And because I was working, or because I missed, you know, first steps, and, you know, those little things that, you know, most moms are like, oh my God, you know, and I'm out, you know, I'm not there, you know. And so, and the older they get, the more you feel that, like, because they start doing other things that you want to be there for.
Yeah.
And so that is a real thing. This happened actually just last weekend. I had a colleague of mine. I went to a seminar downtown. He runs into me last week, and he's like, how's Elite? And I was like, oh, wow, like, people are paying attention,
Yeah.
you know? I said, great, it's good, thank you. He's like, I want you to know that you are inspiring people.
That's true.
And I was like, it hit me, because I'm thinking I'm going to have this very superficial conversation. I'm going to go get my coffee. And I'm like, oh, thank you. I'm like, that's so nice of you to say. He's like, no, let me tell you, my daughter, I'm dropping her off here at UT this weekend, and I use you as an example to her. And I'm thinking, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, she knows she wants to be a mother. She wants to be in the health. She doesn't know, she might be a nurse practitioner. She doesn't know yet what she wants to do. He's obviously a doctor, and I've been trying to guide her, you know, but I show her you and the things that you've done, and that you're a mom, and I'm like, wow, okay, well, thank you. That's amazing. I'm like, but I tell her that it's hard. It's a hard thing. And because in my mind, she's just seeing the
highlights.
Right? And I wanted him to tell her.
Is she prepared to get up at 4 a.m. every freaking day?
And now I do it for a different reason, because my kids are sleeping. Nobody's awake, so that's when I exercise. From 4 to 6, that's where I'm out exercising, because after 6:37, people need me.
Yeah.
And that's the time that I have that's my time. Right. Everybody else is asleep. Yeah. So I know I can get things done at that time. And so you have to do those things, and that mom guilt is a real thing, you know, that a lot of people don't talk about. And when I was going through it, I felt like people were like, you just have to know how to multitask. And I'm like, I multitask. Like, I know how to multitask. I still have this skill.
I'm multitasking my ass off over here.
I mean, I'm going to play dates right now, and I'm scheduling patients in my car, like, for me to see them. I'm like, I know how to multitask. Yeah. But I think, you know who Shonda Rhimes is?
Not offhand.
She is a TV producer, creator, for Grey's Anatomy, Scandal.
Okay.
She has all these. There's Thursday nights is her night. Like, she has this thing called Shonda Land.
Okay.
I think her response was the most honest response that I've ever heard, and it actually helped me. She said, people always ask me that, because she has kids too. You have to realize that if you're succeeding at one thing, you're probably failing at another, and that's hard to take. For example, if I am shooting something, a very important scene, I'm missing my kids, you know, recital. If I'm at home with my kids doing something, I'm missing my deadline that I have to do to create a show. You have to understand that that's going to happen and be okay with that. But the reward of all of that happening is my kids live in a house where their mother is very successful. They live in a house where a mother works. Yeah. So I feel like that is part of the reason that I wanted to do my own thing, because I am in charge of my schedule.
Yeah.
Nobody else is in charge, and so my goal is to have every Friday off, and
Wow.
so I'm working Monday through Thursday, and then that Friday I'm with my family, you know, and spend more time, or have it in a location where I live, so then I can go to lunch with my son at his, you know, school, and I'm already looking at what time his lunch is. I'm like, oh, it's 5 minutes away. I can go meet him up for lunch, which I would have never been able to do being up north in the clinic, and them adding more hours to my schedule. It's just, that is one, if maybe not the biggest reason why I opened up my practice, is because I want control of my time and to spend that time with my kids, especially right now, you know, like we talked about earlier, these times just fly. And then all of a sudden I look back and they're going to be leaving, and I missed lunch with them, and I missed taking them. You know, we've talked a lot about women that work and everything. My respect also is highly on women that stay at home too, because being with kids 24/7 is just,
you're like, let me go to work, man.
Work is easy. You know, the OR is easy. You know, I feel like, you know, wow, because it's constantly mommy, 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 and one person has one personality, and one little one has another personality. So that's what I want, a little bit more balance. Now that I've worked for 12 years, I feel a little bit more, okay, I'm here in my career. I know what I'm doing. There's less fear, you know, all of that. Now I feel confident enough to say I can build my own thing and now spend time with my family, you know?
Yeah.
So that's definitely one of the big reasons why I decided to go on my own.
Dang, that's awesome. Good for you.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think who you are is this person who continually takes on hard challenges and wins.
Yeah. Well, yeah, not every day, but yes. I think it's, you know, in order to achieve great things, you have to risk things, you know, and if you get too comfortable where you're at, you'll never get something that you really think it's great. In your case, whoever, greatness can be anything, and it's a personal thing. I feel like if you don't put in the risk, it's not gonna change.
Yeah.
If you want your life to change, you have to change, you know. It's something that you have to do. No, again, we go back to nobody. I knew nobody else was going to do it for me, and still nobody. You, and that's something I want to teach my kids, is your destiny is what work you're going to put into it. I hope that I have shown them that it's hard work that gets you to that path. That's not easy. It's not going to be easy. I want you to work hard, and I don't want it to make it too easy for them, because that's a mistake that parents like us that went through a lot, we want to make it so easy for them, but then we go the other way, and then
they can't overcome any adversity.
No, and so you got to make them go through things, and life is not easy, and you have to, just even them falling right now, because they're in that stage where, you know, they fall, and I don't go grab them and cuddle them, you know. I say, are you okay? Okay, let's get up.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes my mom thinks I'm hard on them, but you know, I feel like, no, I want them, especially the girls, you know, it's hard. It's a thing, you know. I know, you know, we've grown a little bit as far as women and careers and all of that, but you still see it, you know. I don't see a lot of women surgeons in the OR, you know. I only see a lot of Latina surgeons in the OR. And so I want my daughters, and of course my son, to see that it's okay. If going back to what Shonda Rhimes said, in my case, you know, they are growing up in a house where their mom is a doctor, and that's a normal thing for them.
How incredible.
You know, that's a normal thing for them. They don't have to think. For me, I had to work deep, get that inside of me to find what that strength was in me to get to where I'm at. I didn't see a doctor as a role model in my house, you know, and so with them, they already have that. I hear that my daughter's role play, and they're playing doctor and patient, and my daughter's, it's like, hello, this is Dr. Souliotis. I heard that for the first time. I've never heard them say that. That's the best Dr. Souliotis I've ever heard in my life.
Amazing. Think about how drastic of a difference that is in one half a generation, because your work is you're only kind of getting started. Not that long ago, when you were growing up, you looked around culturally and went, this feels stifling, right?
Yeah.
I'm expected to just maybe get married and that's it. And now one generation later, your young daughter is going, hey, this is Dr. Souliotis, right?
Yeah.
Because that's her norm.
Yeah, right.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's what, going back to that whole mom guilt, it exists. It's going to be there no matter what you do. But then you have moments like that, that you're like, okay, I'm doing the right thing, you know? And so that's what I always give advice to young professional students that rotate and things like women that are young in trying to go to college. I have my two nieces actually beginning college this year. And I look at them and I tell them, look, we all make mistakes. We all make mistakes. We're not perfect, because they use me, my cousins, and as look at Nolaska, you know, and I don't want them to see me that way. That's nice, and I get it, but I want them to know that I'm not perfect, because whenever things go bad, I want them to know that it's okay, that you made a mistake. You need to get up and start over again. You have to start over again in anything you do, because you're not going to be perfect. A diet, your school, like you're going to have bad surgery. I've had moments in the OR that I'm like, oh my God. But then I say, okay, everything is okay. Everything turned out well, but now I know that I can do this instead. So you have to learn from your mistakes. And it's not just like what you see, like, oh, I'm opening up a lead and it's great, you know. No, there's a struggle there, and you have to know that you have to be able to get up again.
100%. I saw a quote once, I'm kind of paraphrasing it. It basically said, an expert is just a person who's made every mistake possible in a particular field. Right? Yeah. You have, it's the way you learn. You know, nobody wants to learn that way, but it's really the only way, because you feel it, you learn it, and you say, okay, I'm not doing that again.
Do that again. Yeah. And so, and that, those are the hard times for people, because people will give up. Right? That's when they say, oh, no, I can't do this. No, you can. It's just, you just had a bad day. You know, you have to, and it's easy for me to say that right now. I have my bad days, and I'm not saying, oh, no, Nolaska, you're okay. It's, you know, you just have to find it in yourself that it's going to be, you have to start over again. You know?
Wow. Well, I think we've said it all. You've done so much. You've said so much. So many funny stories, so much insight. I think we nailed it. What do you think?
It's good.
I think you did an excellent job.
Thank you.
There it was, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Nolaska Souliotis with an incredible interview. So insightful, so empowering, so uplifting, so encouraging. Just absolutely incredible. I'll see y'all next time. I have a lot of these interviews lined up with a lot of incredible people and a lot of moving stories. So stay tuned. Be sure to like and subscribe to this channel, as it actually helps the algorithm know to show it to more people. And it helps you see the stuff that I'm working on, and hopefully it adds value to your life. Once again, my name's Anthony, and this is Everything Connects. Thank you.